When you get older, you don't believe the bullshit of other people anymore. All those experiences I made, they helped me to become the person I am. When I talk about spiritual empowerment, I have to go to a sacred space, here in Germany, the ruin of an old monastery. Here my soul can breathe, and my inner sight expands through time and space. In primeval times, this was a pagan sanctuary, where Celtic rituals took place, as it always was before Christianity and monotheism took over. In the future, other spiritual forms will emerge. Forms are changing, but essence stays in our soul. We carry it through the lifetimes, and when we dive into our soul space, we can connect with it. In the medieval ages, a famous woman lived here. She was a saint. Her name was Hildegard von Bingen. Hildegard was not an ordinary nun. She was a mystic, a visionary, a healer. She founded her own monastery, and she was an influencer who had her own opinion and even gave political advice. In her 40s, she started to talk about her visions. And even though my life is so different, I feel connected with her. I want to talk about a topic I carried in my heart for quite a time. Giving away your spiritual power is so common. It's so common. Over the years, I witnessed this in all different groups, spiritual groups, alternative communities, groups with ethical intent. Today, I will talk about it. I will give examples how we lose our spiritual power and why it is important to value ourselves. It's the time now for every individual to regain your spiritual sovereignty. For this video, I have a guiding tarot card, the High Priestess. She stands for our intuition, our connection with the soul space and the transcendent, our inner endurance and our spiritual fertility. Welcome. Today I will talk about owning my spirituality. I'm 47 now, and I got to know all kinds of groups, all different scenes. And sadly, giving up your spiritual power is so common. It's so common. Before I give 5 or 6 examples, I want to encourage you. I want to give you some words of encouragement, because I know it can be difficult to deal with the negative sides of the spiritual scene and of spiritual groups. No matter what happens, even if you go to a guru and lose all your money or whatever, I want to encourage you to do self-care and to have self-respect. Valuing your own boundaries and to have a good relationship with yourself. And don't blame yourself. Even if you didn't value your boundaries enough the 10th time, the 100th time, you can always make it better tomorrow. So don't blame yourself. What does giving up your spiritual power mean? It means that you let other people tell you how to interpret your experiences, the meaning of life, what is good and what is bad, which spiritual acts to choose, sometimes even how you live your life. Examples. First example, rigid spiritual methods. There's nothing wrong to follow a rigid spiritual method if you really want this. Why not meditating 40 years in a cave? For some people, this is the path. But what I've often seen was people following teachings which told them to meditate at least 10 years, 5 hours a day. I'm exaggerating a bit, yeah. And in a certain position in order to achieve spiritual development or spiritual awakening. And only if you do it this way, then you can achieve spiritual development, spiritual awakening. And for many people, this is not the case. For some people, it might be. But many people have another path. Maybe meditating is not your thing. Or maybe meditating in a free-flowing way is your thing. Maybe you prefer to be in nature, to have mystic experiences in nature. Maybe you like active meditations where you dance and not sitting in a certain position 3 hours a day. Get to know yourself and listen to your inner spiritual voice and the voice of your soul. Just try it out. Try it out and see what works for you. Second example, people not trusting their own intuition and having to ask a bunch of people, a teacher, a teaching for every little spiritual decision or interpretation they make. And of course, you can read a book, you can talk with people, you can listen to their advice. But in the end, it's your decision. There was this woman in a Facebook group and she asked random people if she's allowed, she used the word allowed, if she's allowed to burn her wishes for winter solstice this way or that way. During winter solstice you can burn your wishes, you write it on paper and you burn it for the next year. Yeah, so that's the ritual behind this. And she asked random people if she's allowed to do it this way, that way, in the morning or in the evening with this pen on this paper, you know. Yeah, it made me sad when I read that. And again, don't blame yourself if you do that. Be kind to yourself and look inside and ask yourself, ask your intuition, how does it feel right for me? Spirituality, it's a free-flowing thing. It's not that you have this rule and that rule and only this is right. It must feel right for you. It has to make sense for you. Third example. Sometimes spiritual abuse already lies in the teaching. There are teachings which tell you that you have a bad ego, you're a sinful person, do what the collective says, be one with the collective. There is no individuality. Forget your own intuition. And that's bullshit. And you should know that this is bullshit. Of course, again, there is some truth in losing your ego, giving up your ego. When I have mystical experiences and I'm in a flow state, I'm not aware of me as a personality. I don't identify with some form of ego. In those mystical states where you sink into your soul depth, you're not identified with your personality. And this is what giving up your ego means, and not letting other people tell you in a group setting what's right or wrong. That's not giving up your ego. Don't let other people manipulate you. And again, if this happens to you, yeah, maybe your soul wanted to make this kind of experience and you can take it with you and learn from it. And next time you make it differently. From everything we experience, we can take something with us and we become richer personalities. Even when we make bad experiences, we become deeper and richer personalities. Don't beat yourself up for having followed toxic group dynamics for a week, a month, or even years. There's always a way out, and there is always another perspective, another life. Fourth example, accepting advice and interpretations of your experiences and relationships from other people without checking with yourself. Is this true? Does this apply on me? A women's group, sisterhood, those types of groups are very common nowadays, and I even organized and led such a group by myself several years ago. And let's say a woman goes to such a sisterhood group and she has problems with her husband in her relationship, and she opens up and talks with other women about her relationship. And they tell her that her husband, he's an evil narcissist, and she should become completely independent from him because he's an evil person. And maybe he is this type of person. We don't know. Only she can know. But the word narcissist nowadays is often used in a very random way. So basically, everybody you don't like is a narcissist. That's one thing. And the other thing is, you can listen to advice, but in the end, it's your relationship and not theirs. It's your life and not theirs. You cannot give away your responsibility to other people. Fifth example, a self-development group. And I've been to those groups also a lot. I experienced a man who was deeply humiliated by the teacher or the coach of a self-development group. And this man, he had to stand in the middle of a circle, other people around him, and he had to scream, "I'm a big bear, I'm a big bear, I'm a big bear." This he had to scream, and he was not allowed to end his screaming until his voice was loud enough in the ears or the eyes of this teacher. And the thing was, this man, he didn't look like a bear at all. He was petite in his stature, he had a small body, he was an artistic or thinker type of person. I was so ashamed of him. And I asked myself, why? Why let he do this with him? Why? Even if you go through transformation processes, there is no reason to lose your self-respect. Don't lose your self-respect. Don't do that. There's no reason for that. Your personal development will not be accelerated. That's not necessary. And again, it's also an experience people make. Who knows what this man in his inner soul space takes with him from this experience? Yeah. It's not an easy subject to talk about. Sometimes, or often, it's not explicit teachings, but it's social codes. Which kind of relationships are viewed as good relationships or bad relationships? Or which behavior is viewed as good behavior or bad behavior in a group setting? There are groups where people think that you need to be a polyamorous person in order to be spiritually developed, for example. If you still have only one husband, one wife, one partner, or one girlfriend, oh, that's old style. That's the old system. You're not spiritually advanced. Yeah. And again, polyamory is something you can choose. There is nothing wrong with it. But it has to come out of yourself, and it has to be something that you really want. Don't do it just because it's the social code of a damn group. Yeah. For a long time, I couldn't really value my own spiritual approach and my own spiritual being. I always had this contact, but I couldn't value it. As soon as I went to group settings, I lost myself and I faded into the background. And I couldn't talk about my own experiences. I didn't think that they're of importance. I also felt devalued by certain social scenes. Basically, I felt devalued from two sides. On one hand, I felt devalued by the mundane world. People telling me that my spirituality or spirituality in general is something worthless. I should be less dreamy, I should be less introverted, I should be more practical, I should talk faster and be in contact with many people and should focus on just tangible, practical things. I should believe in science or business or material things you can see with your eyes. And I shouldn't focus on spiritual things. That's only esoteric. It's not of any value. And when I was with those kind of people, I had to hide parts of my personality and parts of my being, parts of my soul expression, because I didn't feel valued. And I also felt devalued from another side, from certain spiritual groups who told me only this one teaching is right, only how we do it is right. Forget your own free-floating, individual spiritual approach. I had the feeling that my spiritual experiences are viewed as worthless. People, they usually don't tell you that your experiences are worthless. They don't use the word worth or value. It's not explicitly said, usually. It's how they treat you and how they interact with you with your individual spiritual way of being. And it took me a long time, I think 40 years. Once I entered my 40s, I started to value myself more. So it's good to become older. It's not a bad thing. And I made another video about my age and finding my voice in my 40s. When you get older, you don't believe the bullshit of other people anymore. You don't have the energy and the time anymore to believe their bullshit and to lose yourself and fade into the background. Valuing your own spirituality and regaining, taking back your spiritual power and sovereignty, it's so fulfilling. You don't have to become bitter. You don't have to blame group settings. And sometimes this also happens to me when I realize that I start to get bitter and start to devalue other people, and I start to hate. And I know all those feelings. And it's important to feel your anger. But when I start to become bitter, then I know I'm not on the right path anymore. And I try to focus on the positive, the light of my soul. And I realize that all those experiences I made, they helped me to become the person I am. It's so fulfilling to be in contact with your inner voice and to interpret your experiences by yourself, what's good and what's bad for you, and to choose your spiritual acts by yourself according to the color of your soul. And I want to encourage you to also experience this. I basically mean 3 things. One thing, be aware of and to value your own individual spiritual approach, the way you as an individual experience spirituality. Because spirituality is not spirituality. We all have different spiritual gifts, a different spiritual path, and also we tend to prefer different spiritual methods. The second thing is to interpret your experiences yourself. Spirituality is all about meaning. It's the meaning sphere. Yeah, it's not the mundane world where you see a tree and you say, okay, this is a tree, this is a table. No, in the sphere of spirituality, it's about symbols, it's about meaning, it's about narratives. These narratives can be different. Different people can apply different meanings to things. Of course, you can talk with other people and read in books and go to a spiritual teacher or even a guru. Yeah, I'm not a fan of gurus, but you can do this. In the end, it's you giving meaning to the things and interpreting your experiences. What do I mean with interpreting? I made this experience with, for example, this inner light. And then Christian people, they interpret this as, oh, this is Jesus Christ. Yeah? They apply the interpretation or the meaning Jesus Christ to this experience. Other people give other meanings to this experience. So you can say, yeah, it's the inner light of my soul, or it's my guardian angel, or this was a very deep inner experience I had. I don't have words for it, but it helped me. You can leave it open and you can apply several meanings to it. Deciding for yourself which meaning to apply. This means owning your spirituality. The third thing, choosing spiritual acts by yourself. Which rituals do I like? Which traditions do I like? Which ceremonies do I like? Which religion do I like? Or do I choose not to have a religion but leave my spirituality open? Do I go to yoga classes? Do I go to shamanic rituals? Do I go to the Catholic Church? Or do I create my own pagan ceremony in the forest? Yeah? So this means choosing your spiritual acts. The card of this video, the High Priestess, she can help you. She stands for being in contact with your intuition and the transcendent. And if you see the upper part here, it's a receiving gesture, and it means that you are open for receiving insights from the transcendent or from your soul space, from God, whatever this means for you personally. And the lower part here, she sits on a throne and there's this bow. And the throne, it stands for the stability of your spiritual power, your spiritual sovereignty, that it is stable and grounded. And the bow stands for your goals, following your own soul path. And the camel is an animal which can hold a lot of water while going through the desert. The High Priestess, she's also connected to the element water. And water means also to be in contact with your intuition, with this free-flowing spirituality. And the camel, which can hold this water for a long time, it means that you can be in contact inside yourself with your spirituality, even when the outside world is difficult, even when the outside world doesn't value it. So it's carrying it in your heart. The flowers stand for your spiritual fertility, and the grapes, they are connected with the god Dionysos. And Dionysos, it's also about sexuality. When you have a good contact to your sexual being, then also your spirituality blossoms. This tarot card is from a special tarot deck, and it's called the Toad Tarot. And I like it because of those beautiful paintings. You can use another tarot deck if you want. There are many tarot decks you can buy. I use this because I attended a tarot education, a tarot course by a teacher. His name is Gerd Ziegler. He also wrote a book about this tarot deck, and it's especially good for beginners. If you want to have more in-depth information, then you can buy those thick books and you can read about every little symbol and every little element and the meaning. I think I came to the end. In the end, I just want to encourage you again to be in contact with your soul space and your own spirituality. Not only to be in contact with it, but to value it and to go into the world with it and to let your inner light shine. Thank you for listening.
I followed a bird, and it led me to pastures new, and it showed me the sky was blue when all I could see was gray. I danced with the wind, and it carried me so high I flew, and it gave me another view, one I had never seen. I know you think that things don't change when life gets in the way. The sun will still come up and I will still be beside you, and the world will keep turning no matter what you choose to do. And whatever the weather, we'll work out together what's true. I promise you. Walked on the earth, and it told me to run far away, to keep going until yesterday was out of my mind. I made a deal with the sea, and I asked it to carry me far beyond all those peaks I could see, beyond what was mine. I know you think that things don't change when life gets in the way. The sun will still come up and I will still be beside you, and the world will keep turning no matter what you choose to do. And whatever the weather, we'll work out together what's true. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you.